Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month for you. And by the way, Gemini, if you missed your birthday reading this year, it's not too late to benefit from a reading of your solar return birthday chart. It tells you all about the year to come and how to handle it for the best results. You'll find a link for it in the description below. Well, Ceres is traveling along through Libra all month, which is your 5th house, and will be in this house until mid-September. Wherever Ceres goes, you want to bring good stewardship to this domain. She's an eminently practical goddess and an earth mother, and she wants you to have a high-quality life of the body wherever she goes. So she puts things through a practical test wherever she goes. Now, the 5th house is a little bit of an unusual place to find Ceres. I don't know that it's her favorite place to be, because I think that Ceres in this house can be a little bit spendy, can be a little bit prone to living in a more lavish way, a little bit more of the lush way, and maybe getting into some bad habits like, drinking too much, eating foods that are too rich, spending too much, overspending on things that, were probably worth more, but maybe not as much as you actually paid. So watch out for regretting some of your purchases while Ceres is traveling along through this house. And if you do use this passage to entertain yourself, which is absolutely what the 5th house is about, or to beef up your personal brand, another great thing that this house is about, then just be cautious and thoughtful about how you spend towards that effort, and just wisely make sure that your money goes exactly as far as you want it to go. Next thing I want to talk about is Juno, and Juno is spending the month in the sign of Cancer, which is your 2nd house. She's going to be here until mid-August. Juno is an asteroid goddess to do with committed partnership, and that applies to our personal life as well as our professional life. Juno in the 2nd house will bring up money themes in your committed partnership, whether that's a business partnership or maybe a spouse. And so because the 2nd house is not a house of shared monies, that's the 8th house. The 2nd house is a house of individual monies, most particularly your own money, the resources that you bring to a relationship. And so Juno entering into this house does suggest that this could be a really good time to sit down and think through and work out with your partner what happens, to the money that you put into the relationship, and how do you keep your own money? Do you have some money of your own that's separate from the relationship? And then do you have a shared pool? And how does all that flow, and how does all that work? When each partner makes money, how does that come into the system? Where does it go from there? Does everybody have some money that's just their own? And that's an important factor in a marriage, and it can help it to feel equitable, which is really what Juno wants. Then I want to talk about Chiron. Chiron is traveling along through Aries over a 7-year period. He's in about year 4 of this journey and in your 11th house. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, and this is undoubtedly a difficult archetype. Chiron does us a good turn by allowing us to bury old wounds so that we can cope with life as life is coming at us. And then Chiron offers those wounds back up to the surface of our consciousness so that we can deal with them when we're ready. And it may be that you feel sometimes that you're not ready to deal with a Chiron wound. That can certainly happen. But it may be that Chiron thinks you're ready, and it may be that your greater self thinks that you're ready. So during a Chiron transit, quite often what happens is that things get triggered from the past, and we often don't recognize that they're triggers. We think that something new is hurting us in the present moment. But being aware that you're having a Chiron transit is the best way to navigate it in the full consciousness that this is a trigger and that there's something old underneath the surface that that if you heal it will leave you more free to move on without so much baggage. So as Chiron is going retrograde this month on the 23rd. You'll see this. Right there's the little red RX symbol that means that Chiron has turned retrograde. And when this happens, Chiron initiates us into his yearly journey lasting several months to, really look into what is the old wounding that is holding me back, being a drag on my tail. And in particular, because Chiron is traveling through Aries, this might take the form of anger or situations where you need to assert yourself and maybe you're habitually not asserting yourself as much as you should. Maybe you explode with anger. Maybe something violent happens, something scary happens. Maybe there is the need to protect or defend yourself. And figuring out how to do those things in a way that's balanced and, using as little pressure as the situation could possibly call for to still, hold your boundary in a good way. These are the sorts of lessons that Chiron brings. Now, this is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of community and people of like mind. And so as Chiron passes along this house, you might find yourself encountering people who are wounded the same way you are. They might even be angry about the same things that you are. You might find that hanging out with these people triggers old wounds and reminds you of pain from the past. And this can be a wonderful opportunity for healing that pain and letting go of it forever. Let's toss the ball over to Julia. I know you've got some news about Mars, Mercury, and Venus this month.
I certainly do. Hey there, Gemini. Lots of activity happening in your third house this month, and I'll start with Mars. Mars is a planet of action and drive. However, Mars is probably one of the trickier planets I'm going to talk about today because wherever we have Mars is where we can run into conflict as well. And Mars starts the month in your third house. So since we're talking about the third house a lot today, let me introduce it. It is the house of communication. It is the house of learning. It's also the house of short journeys. So that can also include moving around your neighborhood or your workday commute. It also represents your siblings, your cousins, as well as your neighbors and neighborhood in general. So with Mars starting off in this house for the first 10 days of the month, you might find that you're a little bit sharper with your words, like a little bit more blunt, a little bit more direct, or maybe a bit quick on the draw, with what you say to other people. And it can be a time of not seeing eye to eye with your siblings or even the people who are close to you. Maybe your neighbors are complaining about you or, maybe you're running into other disagreements with just sort of what's going on in your neighborhood in general. Now, Mars in the third can be a wonderful transit to feel very driven to learn more. It's also a good time to maybe get out there and take a trip, maybe go to a local beach or a state park and just kind of move around and get your energy out that way. Now, by July 10th, Mars moves into your fourth house. This is the house of family and home. So it represents more like your parents, people you live with, as well as your physical house, whether that's an apartment or a dorm room or wherever it is that you call home. So when Mars is in the fourth house can also be our past as well. You might find that there are things that are bothering you now that come from your past. Maybe you start thinking about something that happened a long time ago and it gets you annoyed or gets you frustrated. Mars in the fourth can also mean that you run into conflict with your parents or maybe the people you live with, like your roommates. Now, Mars in the fourth can be great for getting a lot of work done at home. So definitely definitely, if you can do a workout routine at home, maybe some yoga, maybe get a Peloton bike or something, that could be a great use of this transit, or just get lots of home projects done too. Now, Mercury starts off in your second house. This is a house of money and possessions for the first 10 days of the month. So with Mercury in the second, this is a good time for getting organized, strategized, and thinking ahead about money matters in your life. It's also a time where you might notice there's more communication in your life about money in general, such as the people close with you, or maybe with your boss at work, or maybe you're thinking about how to expand your business. By July 10th, Mercury moves into the third house, right when Mars moves out of here. And when Mercury comes into the third house, it's going to take some of that pressure, some of the more challenging things that Mars represented in here. And Mercury's a lot easier to deal with. So this can be a great transit for learning new things, maybe a great transit for getting writing done, and a transit where you might notice that you're connecting a lot more socially with your neighbors and your siblings as well. Then by July 28th, Mercury moves into the fourth house, joining Mars here. Mercury moves faster than Mars. That's why he's catching up to Mars throughout by the end of the month. And again, the fourth house is a house of family and home. With Mercury in here, you could be very preoccupied by your domestic life. Maybe you're communicating a lot more with your family or the people you live with. Maybe you're thinking a lot more about the past. Maybe you're really, you're thinking about things that happened a long time ago and how they affect the present too, or strategizing or planning around the home place. Now, finally, we have Venus. She's the luck planet. She represents pleasure and relationships, and she is in the third house all month. Again, this house of communication, learning, neighbors and neighborhood and siblings. Venus in the third house can mean that you get more pleasure, more joy from your local surroundings. Maybe you're connecting to people in the community, going to community events, for example. This can be a time where maybe your siblings or neighbors are benefiting you in some way too, with Venus in the third. Now, by July 22nd, Venus is going retrograde in this house. So she's going to be hanging in this house for a little while, during the summer. Now, when Venus goes retrograde, it's a time of relationship review for us all. And that's basically the case when any planet goes retrograde. It's a time of review for whatever that planet represents. So with Venus retrograde in the third house after July 22nd, if you are in a relationship, then you could be reviewing how you and your partner communicate together. Do you need to work on your communication? Do you guys have different styles of communicating that could be maybe negotiated better? Could a therapist help you communicate better? You might be thinking over a lot of these things, and you might be also thinking about whether your partner really helps connect you to your community and neighborhood a little bit better. You might also be reviewing your relationships with your siblings as well during this time, in a non-romantic way, of course. And if you're currently single, then you might be thinking about how your next relationship, how you want to be able to communicate with your next partner, for example, versus how things have gone in the past. So definitely how you connect, because communication is just so critical in a relationship. And those are going to be things that are really going to be a focus of yours, I think, this summer, Gemini, while Venus goes retrograde in your third house.
That's great advice. Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fascinating, but they're more general than personal. Did you know we run live workshops monthly and that you can get questions answered about your own chart there? This month's topic is harvesting your Jupiter luck, and in it you can find out when is the next time you'll have money luck, career luck, or relationship luck, or even a period of personal charisma that makes you especially persuasive and attractive to opportunity like a magnet. This workshop is expressly for our Tier 2 Patreon subscribers. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video. Well, over the last couple of months, The moons have been showing up with one moon being really stressful and the other moon being really harmonious. But this month, both moons feature a lot of harmony, which is just terrific. And also, both of them feature a lot of water influence, beginning with the first one on July 3rd, a full moon in Capricorn. And the moon itself lands in your 8th house right here, but it opposes 3 planets placed right here in Cancer in your 2nd house, because your 2nd house is super emphasized with Cancerian placements in the early part of this month. So lots of water going on here. With these 3 Cancerian placements and the way that they trine Saturn here in Pisces, another water sign. So we're calling this one Grow Your Emotional Intelligence, really with the emphasis being on emotional, but also intelligence because Mercury is here. So it incorporates use of the mind, use of thoughts and the rational, but in a way that's warm and kind and sympathetic, and also wonderfully social because Juno's here too. Now, this little grouping in Cancer faces off against the moon in Capricorn, which does have a tendency to clamp down on emotions. This moon falls in your 8th house of intimate relationships, intimate partners, whether that means, somebody that you have sex with on a regular basis, that you share emotionally with on a regular basis, or a person, group, pool, or instrument through which you invest, because that is also an 8th house matter and comes in here under, under the umbrella of places that you put your trust. So the moon in Capricorn landing here in your 8th house is going to demand that you question your intuition. It's going to hold up a mirror to your intuition, and that can come in the form of another person, like a financial advisor, your tax consultant, your business partner, your spouse, those sorts of people who might be telling you that you really need to be more practical and less emotionally spontaneous, and not do these kind of financial things in an intuitive way, but in a practical way. And there's truth to that, but there's going to have to be a balancing act here between these forces. And I have to say that it's an opportunity to really grow your emotional intelligence, partially because Saturn brings in some, I want to say, some like good restrictions, some desire to show up as an adult, as mature, as restrained in a good way. And then also Jupiter adds to the wisdom quotient by bringing a sense of hope and positivity, and bringing the promise that then Saturn can deliver on. So this moon is a really good one for bringing some balance to your financial situation that you share with another person or entity. So that one's happening early in the month, and it's largely harmonious. And then the second moon this month comes up on or around the 17th, depending on your time zone. And here it is, and it lands in your 2nd house, the sun and the moon together. But there is a bit of stress here because the sun and the moon oppose Pluto, and they also square that Chiron that I was talking about. So they bring up some of those themes of wounding and healing and looking beneath the surface, and even potentially some power and control dynamics that might be coming at you, likely from a partner of some kind, or might bring you a circumstance beyond your control that makes you check your intuition, that comes to you from some avenue where you have placed your trust, where you have invested in some form emotionally or financially. And fortunately, there's a lot of great harmony in this moon as well. Neptune especially trines that sun and moon, just really deepening your intuition and supporting it, with otherworldly forces trying to help you. And then Uranus providing some wonderful lightning bolt insights to help you have clarity. So this one we're calling brilliant psychic insights, and it really does bode fair to deliver them. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about is the general migration of planets through and out the sign of Cancer and into the sign of Leo, which is your third house. So over the course of the month, whereas earlier in the month, the emphasis is really on your own finances and how you can have your finances be strong and how you can feel supported and you can feel safe and secure in your own skin and be enjoying life and eating in ways that are good for your body. And all of those are second house matters that really come to the fore when your second house is full and busy like this. But over the course of the month, as things migrate over to the third house, and especially when the sun arrives there, then this becomes an area of big interest and concern. And as Julia was describing, this is a house of learning and curiosity. It's a house of the mind and communication. It also covers the people that are right around us every day that we may have superficial contacts with, but frequent contact with, like housemates, neighbors, and siblings. And so this becomes the area of interest as the sun moves here around July 23rd. Now, wherever the sun travels, it will spend about 30 days in each new house when it moves in. And it's a really great place to shine the sunlight of your high quality attention because wonderful things can happen there when you do. And that means not being self-absorbed in that area, but shining your attention on other people. And because there's a saying in life, and it is so true, what you put your attention on grows. And that's because attention is like sunlight. It helps things to thrive and flourish. So when the sun enters the third house, if you are engaged in a course of study, this is a really great time for your learning, for you to follow your curiosity down the highways and byways to discover answers, and for you to be in good communication practices where you are paying attention to the other person, making sure that what you're saying is landing over there with them and that what they're saying is landing over here with you and that they get that. And a really good time to just be a little bit more friendly, a little bit more warm, a little bit more shiny in your own neighborhood and in your own household.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. Enjoy your summer, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.